We created Free because someone had to stand for the addicts and loved ones of addicts who were suffering in silence, for the spiritual refugees who didn't have a place of belonging. A traditional church model doesn't create space for the conversations we know have to be had. Free is standing with those who are barely hanging on, who are longing for something new. Free is bridging the gap between spirituality and recovery. In this place, God meets us exactly where we are. This is what we stand for.
Hello, everybody.
Hi, everyone.
I'm Matt. Tonight's going to look a little different, if you can't tell. Seth is out, but we're going to be streaming a Denver message, so that'll be coming up shortly. And I believe we still have people streaming in on YouTube, so hello, everybody. Every week at Free, we all like to gather, and the one thing we don't do here is shame. So we always like to kick it off by saying we don't do shame together. So if we could do that. 1, 2, 3. We don't do shame. Thank you.
All right, so now we're going to get into some announcements. You can connect with us. We have cards over on the Connect table where you can fill out your information, put your phone number down if you'd like to have coffee with Seth. Please note that. It's a good way for us to get your email, stay in touch, and be part of the community. Oh, yeah, and you get free merch for filling out the card.
And then also for any of you who are interested in volunteering, it's very helpful. I know a lot of you here have volunteered, but we set up together. We have AV you could help with doing the coffee, and it's a good way for us all to connect outside of just the message. So if you're interested, there's a QR code there.
Okay, and dun 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 dun, new gathering time beginning May 30th, which is next weekend. Now meeting at 6 o'clock, coffee at 5:30, same place, same great atmosphere, same amazing people. I love that.
Is that a Sunday or a Saturday? Are we moving to Sunday or just an earlier time?
Just an earlier time.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's good to know.
Yeah, just an earlier
hour
time.
early.
That
Earlier
way,
than-
I know Seth has talked about afterwards having enough time, like if people wanted to go for a walk together, we talked about doing a volleyball night at the beach or something, but just to give a little more time for us to hang out too.
Yeah, and go home and feed our dogs.
Yeah. Okay, so now we're going to get into the celebrations portion of the service. This is a great opportunity to share like what you're celebrating this week, anything special going on, and we just want some recognition for it. And we'll walk around with the mics.
I guess I'll start since I have a mic. But I'd like to celebrate to have a newfound clarity, which is much needed. I was in my head a lot with my job, which I'm sure a lot of people are, but I recently been practicing just being still and not listening to the mind as much, and it's helped me a lot, and I wanted to share that because I feel a lot different this week. So.
Awesome.
Hi, I'm Aaliyah. I want to celebrate having a therapist. Finally, I had my second session this past Friday, and it's something that I've been wanting to do for years. So I finally got it, and I'm very excited.
It's one of the best things I've done for myself, honestly.
Hi, I'm Eric, and I finally sent out the save the dates for my wedding. And unfortunately, I don't think I got all the emails correct, so there's a lot of work to do as far as that concerned, but at least I did it.
Hi, I'm Pete. I'm an alcoholic. Last weekend, I went to my very first LGBT recovery roundup in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And I had never been to a roundup before, and I really learned a lot. It wasn't just fluff. I learned about the masks that we wear, even though we've recovered. We still wear masks. We still think that we try to use our minds to fix our minds without a spiritual guide, and that doesn't work. So it gave me new things to think about on my recovery journey.
We have some from LSSI that are coming in. We have Jordan G is celebrating 24 days sober, and he is also celebrating his nephew graduating college. Nikki F says, I'm grateful that I got a great deal of support now. Very thankful. And yeah. George Allen shares, I'm 40 days clean and grateful for each day of being sober.
Yes.
And Raymond F is 6 weeks sober and is feeling grateful for his family. That's
All
awesome.
right.
And Laurel reports, I'm on my 9th or 10th day of sobriety, free from chemical dependency.
Yay.
And Nick B has 2 more weeks at LSSI, and then I will have completed a successful treatment program. Yeah. That's a big deal. And then last one is Javante. Shout out to the staff of LSSI for being uplifting and supportive.
Yeah.
Thank you. That was a lot of them.
Yeah, that
Thank
was
you for
great.
sending those in.
LSSI.
Thank you, LSSI.
Yeah. Okay. So that completes celebrations. Now we're going to switch over to the stream session of the evening. We have Pastor Ryan, which is the pastor out in Denver, giving a message, and then we'll do the meditation also with Denver, and then the guest storyteller will be a Denver person as well. So here we go.
It just changes everything. One day you know who you are, then suddenly you don't. This is the in-between, where everything shifted, but you haven't caught up yet. If you've ever asked, who am I now? This is where we start digging.
Yeah, who am I now? It is not just a question for when everything falls apart, but it's also a question for when everything finally starts coming together. The truth is, we talk a lot about the hard transitions. In fact, we've done it in this series. Who are you now when it comes to you being in the midst of loss and pain and maybe even being uprooted in your life? But tonight I want to talk about what about the transition of the good? Like, what about when things start going right in your life? You get some healing in your life. Maybe you even got into recovery and you got clean and sober. Or as a loved one, you got into recovery to help you get better tools and be more centered and have more peace in your life, and things started going right. The chaos starts to leave. Relationships maybe even start to stabilize just a bit, and have you forgotten that this is the life you prayed for? I mean, this is the life that you thought you could never have, and now you're living it, and you fought hard for it. And did anyone ever warn you that this is a beautiful place to be, but it can also be a very dangerous place to be? Do you know the first time I tried to get sober, it was December 12th of 2011. My actual sobriety date, when I got into recovery, January 7th of 2013. But the first time was December 12th of 2011. I thought I hit my bottom. I was miserable. The problem is I'm still holding on to my shovel. And I couldn't stop drinking, and so I heard about this crazy thing called Alcoholics Anonymous, something I never wanted to be a part of, but I went to a few meetings. I even did what they told me to do. I got a sponsor, and I even met with this sponsor a few times. And life was going good. Life was going so good for me that, at least on the outside, I mean, I was back in the gym and I was dropping some LBs. I wasn't doing any inner work, but on the outside, things were good.
And it was so good, I went to meet my sponsor up at the Panera in Littleton. And I walked in, we were going to read some of the big book together. And I walked in and I said, Tony, dude, I got some good news for you, dude. We don't need to meet anymore. And I thought he was going to be proud of me. And I said, listen, like, I know you're 5 years sober and you, for whatever reason, you still got to do this stuff, but dude, I'm good. I got this. And when I said it, I believed it. I'm good. I got this. And I said, no, Tony, you don't understand, dude. It's been now 2 months, and that's a very long time. 2 months without a drink, and I'm feeling good. My life is starting to get better. We don't need to meet anymore. And he gave me that look. Y'all know that look. And I said, what, you think I'm going to drink again? And he says to me, well, Ryan, in my experience, and in my mind, I stopped him right there. F your experience, man. You don't know me. I'm a pastor. I'm strong. I got this. I know how to do this. I don't even crave a drink. I even told him the words. I said, Tony, I'm never going to drink again. And my life was going good. Things were going good, and it worked for 5 more months until the disease got me. And can I tell you all, nothing bad happened. Life was actually going good. We went up to Vail, Colorado to celebrate my wife's birthday. I decided I was going to get a little romantic. So I called the hotel before we got there. And I said, listen, just me and my wife are coming up. We're staying in your hotel. And, can you make things special, whatever you guys do? They made things special. They gave me a free gift. The problem is it was not free to me, and it wasn't a gift to me. When we walked into the hotel room in Vail, Colorado to celebrate her birthday, well, they had a complimentary bottle of champagne. Next to that complimentary bottle of champagne, they had strawberries covered in chocolate. Now, I do not fault Tammy at all for this because she did not know what she knows now about this disease of addiction. She knows my disease very well now. But she says to me, she says, do you think you could have just one drink? And I said, honey, I don't see why not. I mean, it's been 5 months. I don't even crave it anymore. I'm older now. I'm more mature now. It's been a very long time. So I filled up the flute one time. Isn't that what they call them, flutes? I filled up that flute. Then I filled it up again. And again. And then somehow, I don't know how, I wound up at a bar in Vail. And then somehow, later in the night, I wound up at a liquor store. And I don't remember anything after that. But one drink turned into a dozen. And I stayed drunk and in chaos for a few more months until I got sober in early 2013. You see, who are you when life is good? When the chaos starts to settle, when you're feeling good and you maybe even get a little bit of money in your bank account. And listen, y'all, tonight I do not want to use fear tactics because I don't believe in fear tactics. I don't think God is about fear tactics. I don't think they're very effective, especially for people like us. But in the same breath, I will tell you, we must stay humble. And we have to be able to have this conversation that is detached from shame. But you do know you can fall hard even when life is good. And I hope you know this is more than just about drugs and drinking. I mean, think of every aspect in your life. You can fall when things are good. Do you know how many times I've heard the story of someone's marriage? And one of them says to me, Ryan, man, I don't know how it happened. I mean, things were actually pretty good with us, and we weren't in a major season of conflict. We weren't like arguing all the time. Things were good, but you do know, Ryan, things got a little boring in the marriage, and it's like, yeah, you do know you prayed for this life, but you know things got boring, and then at some point they go outside of the marriage. They go outside of the relationship to fill the gap. Things are good, you can fall. It happens with job promotions and starting businesses and businesses growing and flourishing. And you say, man, things are good, and I'm finally getting more, and you slip into this thinking of telling yourself, I deserve more. And the problem is, if they would just see how much I'm worth, if they would see how much I'm worth, how worthy I am, then they would know that I deserve more, and I need to prove that I deserve more. And you start slipping into the old disease of more, and you can fall when things are good. Do you know, I've seen this story play out too many times in my life of people making it to the top, whatever a top is, and it's always the and then. Do you know, since the time I was a little boy, 5 years old, there was a man in my life that I admired. I looked up to him. He built a life that was worth living, and he started with nothing, and he built a life with discipline and faith and hard work. And then I'll never forget, he was a role model for me, and as a 20-something, early 20s, I came back home from college one weekend. And there we were floating on a raft in the lake next to our dock, and we're looking up at the home, and at the dock there's a boat and there's jet skis, and I'll never forget what he said to me. He got this big grin on his face, and he put his arms up on the raft, and he says, Ryan, look at what I've built. And I thought, you have changed. And I didn't have the words to articulate it in my early 20s, but I thought, man, you have changed. You would have never said something like that in the past. You always made it about other people and serving other people. You were always a man of deep gratitude for what God has done in you and through you, and now it's, look at what I've built. And then for the next few years, I watched him get more stuff and more money and more notoriety. And listen, y'all, there's nothing bad with those things. They're not bad in and of themselves. It's always your relationship to those things. But I watched him get more. And then I watched this thing happen where he gave up everything meaningful in his life. He gave up his values, his faith. He gave up serving people. He gave up relationships, family relationships, including me. And it was very difficult to admit. It took me some time to admit this. He was once a North Star for me, and now he's a South Star. And it took a long time to admit, I do not want what he has. It's the pain of a North Star becoming a South Star. You probably have this in your life. And y'all, I tell you this story to also say to you, I have to be very careful not to be so arrogant as to say, I will never do that. Oh, I'll never do that. And I know that's the great temptation. I still have people in my life that would love for me to say, I will never drink again. It would make them feel better. It would give them comfort. I can't say it. I know the temptation is to say, I will never do that. But the truth is, I'm not exempt from falling, and neither are you. Do you know, I try in my life to never say never, because, man, that thing comes back to bite me all the time. Do you know, I said out loud, I said the words, we were living in Denver, and I said, honey, we are never going to live. We can live anywhere in the Denver area, but we're never going to live in Highlands Ranch, Colorado, because that's like the yuppie suburbs. We ain't doing that. Ryan, don't do that. Well, not too long after that, the bishop calls me and says, guess what? We got an appointment for you. You're going to serve a church in Highlands Ranch, Colorado. The first question that was asked to me, and I'm not making this up, she says to me, so are you going to pitch your tent here? And the message was very clear to me. Yes, we are moving to Highlands Ranch. Do you know what else I said I would never do? I said I will never drive a minivan. I got tattoos. I'm too cool for that. I can't drive a minivan. Well, 2 years later, we started having some more kids, and all of a sudden we bought a minivan. We don't have it anymore, but I did drive it for a while, and it was actually kind of cool. Do you know, I said to myself, I said the words out loud, watching my brother battle this disease of addiction and seeing the pain and the destruction that was being caused, I said, I will never be like him. And then when he died of this disease of addiction, I said to people out loud, I will never be like him. And I believed it. The problem is, somewhere along the way, I found the bottle, and it helped me deal with this grief. The problem is, somewhere along the way, I found the bottle, and it helped calm my mind. And then what I had to realize was I actually really love the effects produced by alcohol and other mind-altering substances. And it was never supposed to be me. And then I said the words out loud. No one, when I got into recovery, no one is ever going to find out that I was a drunk pastor. No one's going to find this stuff out, man. This is a part of my story I don't ever want to talk about. Certainly never going to talk about it publicly. And then, well, you see, the recovery mindset gives us a daily reprieve if we stay spiritually connected. It gives us the idea of, but for the grace of God, there go I, one day at a time. And I would tell you, we must stay humble. And I don't want to define that word for you. I want you to think about tonight, what does humility in your life look like? Do you know there's a letter in the New Testament, it's called 1 Corinthians, which means there's also a 2 Corinthians. 1 Corinthians, found in the New Testament, was written by the Apostle Paul to the church in a city called Corinth. What Paul would do is he would travel around, he would start a church or start a movement, then he would leave that city and go to another city to start another movement, and he stayed in touch with them, he stayed in communication through writing them letters. So these people in Corinth, they were his friends, man. He knew these people well. He loved these people. But he heard some ways they were starting to live, some ways they were starting to get off the path. They were saying things like, we have freedom now, and we know the truth now, and we're good, and we got this. And they started pushing their freedom into some very dangerous territory. They were starting to making compromises along the way. And Paul does something very interesting in this letter. You can read it later when you get home tonight, the whole letter of 1 Corinthians. What he does is he takes them back to the earliest part of their story. We talked a little bit about it last week. He takes them back to their earliest part of their story and says, don't you guys remember? Don't you remember the story of your people, your ancestors? And don't you remember the Exodus? I mean, your people were in slavery in Egypt under Pharaoh, and they were crying out. They were miserable. God hears their cries, and then God sends rescue, and God rescues them, guides them through the wilderness towards the promised land, and they experienced miracles with God. They had profound spiritual experiences along the way. Don't you remember? They were free. But then they started making some compromises, and they fell hard, and they lost trust in God. And Paul is saying to them, man, these are examples, but you do not have to repeat this example. This does not have to be your story. Then he drops this line on them. Check it out. 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 12. If you think you are standing strong, be careful not to fall. Imagine them protesting. No, Paul, you got to understand, man, that's never going to be us. Man, I'm never going to drink again. That's never going to be us. And that's exactly when it becomes you. And Paul isn't trying to scare them. He's reminding them to stay humble. Don't forget your story. Yes, you are free, totally free, but do you remember where you've come from? If you think you are standing strong, be careful not to fall. And check it out. Isn't it interesting? Because it's not, if you think you are weak, be careful not to fall. If you think things aren't going well in your life, they're not going the way you want them to go, be careful not to fall. It's not, if you think your life is really hard right now and you're in a difficult season, be careful not to fall. Not, if you think you are standing strong, be careful not to fall. Paul is not talking to people who are struggling. He's talking to people who think they're past struggling. And by the way, what's a first century letter written to people across the world have to do with us today? Well, I would tell you it has everything to do with us, especially here. Because as I look around this room, and some of you online, you know what it's like. You have been totally set free. You have tasted recovery, and you have found that it is good. You've encountered the God of rescue when you were at your bottom, crying out to God knows what you were crying out to. You encountered the God who led you into recovery. You saw miracles happen along the way. You saw God doing for you what you could not do for yourself. You have profound spiritual experiences that you could tell us about in great detail. And you would say now, I'm in a good place. And I would say to you, yes, and stay humble. Because you do know the truth is, nobody wakes up one day and decides to just burn down their life. I mean, nobody wakes up and says, man, you know what I'm going to do today? I'm going to burn it all down in one day. No one does that. Think about it. It's slow. It's quiet. It's almost unnoticeable. And I think it's what happened when your mind tries to subtly trick you into thinking, I don't need the things that got me here. I think it happens one compromise at a time. It's when your mind tries to tell you, man, I don't really need community anymore. Well, I don't need those meetings anymore. I mean, they were good. It was helpful when I was hurting, but now I'm not hurting. And man, I don't really need those spiritual practices anymore. I mean, oh, yeah, sure, those things were good to get me through the tough times, but I'm not in tough times anymore. I don't really need God anymore. I mean, yeah, sure, let me admit, God was good when I was at the bottom, but now I'm on top, whatever the top is, and don't abandon the things that got you here. If you think you're standing strong, be careful not to fall. And by the way, how do we be careful not to fall? I'll close with this. Shift your self-confidence into a God confidence. And you say, oh, Ryan, that kind of sounds hokey spiritual. Is that just something pastors say? You know, I love the way the Message puts it. The Message is a translation of the scriptures written by Eugene Peterson. He's a very good theologian, very good scholar. He took the scriptures and he translated them into our vernacular, like everyday language that we use. And here's that same verse, 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 12, the same one. In the Message, it says this: don't be so naive and self-confident. You're not exempt. You could fall flat on your face as easily as anyone else. Forget about self-confidence. It's useless. Cultivate God confidence. And y'all, it's not that self-confidence is a bad thing. In fact, it can be a good thing. Some of us maybe need more of it. But if it's the thing you are relying on, it is totally useless. Self-confidence will always be the thing that tries to pull you away from gratitude. You'll start finding yourself saying things like, look what I've built. God confidence always pulls you towards gratitude because you know where you came from. You know what you're capable of. Self-confidence says, look at me. Look at what I've done. I got this. God confidence says, I didn't get here on my own, so I won't continue on my own. But today, we got this. Self-confidence says, I'm past that. God confidence says, I'm not above that. Do you know when I was about 6 months sober and actually into recovery, and there is a difference there. When I was about 6 months sober, I was meeting with my sponsor, sitting at his kitchen table 9 o'clock at night, because he'd get his kids to bed, then he would invite me over and we'd sit in his dining room and do some real inner work. And man, that thing happened again. When I was 6 months sober, I'm feeling good. I'm feeling inner good this time too. I'm feeling good all around. And I don't know why I said it, but the words, they just slipped out of my mouth. I said, I'm feeling so good. I'm so glad I'm sober. And I'm so glad I'm never going to drink again. And I'll never forget what he said to me. He said, Ryan, I suggest, and whenever they say that, it took me a while to learn this. When they suggest, it's their polite way of correcting you. Ryan, I suggest you stop saying that. He said, yeah, the truth is, you went to a meeting this morning. You met with your sponsor today, doing it now. He said, today, this was profound, today you are spiritually connected. This is the same man who 5 months before that told me, Ryan, you have to understand you are spiritually disconnected. And that was the scariest words I'd ever heard as an alcoholic, battling addiction, and being a pastor. He said, but today you're spiritually connected. You have these practices. You went to a meeting, you're meeting with your sponsor, and today you're not likely to pick up a drink. And I thought this is a good thing because there's only 2 hours left in this day. He said, when you get home tonight and you go to bed, be sure you thank God for keeping you sober. And then tomorrow, you get to do it all over again. What was he saying to me? Words I needed to hear. What was he saying? Don't be so naive and self-confident. You're not exempt. You could fall flat on your face as easily as anyone else. Forget about self-confidence. It's useless. Cultivate God confidence. Today, life is good. Today. I can tell you I'm not in any major life transitions. Today, I'm not in one of those hard seasons, and we all have the hard seasons. The hard comes and goes. Today, life is good. I have a 20, almost 21-year marriage that I enjoy. And I know where we've come from. I know where I came from. Today, we get to stand in this place called free. And Tammy, my wife, and I got to create the thing that we wanted to see in the world. And I know where I came from. Today, a profound thing happened. Do you know all 4 of my kids said the words, "I love you too, Poppy," and I know where I've come from. Today, I have friends that I can be honest with, and community I get to walk with, and I know where I've come from. Today, I have a God who reminds me on a very regular basis when I forget. This God reminds me on a regular basis, Ryan, you are worthy of love and belonging, and I know where I've come from. As a 5-year-old boy, I battled this feeling of never feeling like I belong, never feeling like I was worthy of love and belonging. I know where I've come from. And today I'm clean and sober, and my life isn't filled with chaos. And thank you, God, for my sobriety. And it's all just a gift. And who are you when life gets good? Will you stay humble? Because you staying free has everything to do with that. So who am I now? Well, I'm still the one who needs God. I'm still the one who needs people. But for the grace of God, there go I. And who are you when life gets good? So here's what we'll do. We'll take a moment and reflect. I want you to reflect on that question. Who are you now? Who will you be when life is good? This song is by an artist, a new artist, newer to me at least, Cameron Whitcomb. Anyone know him? Cameron Whitcomb. He wrote a great song called Options, and today you have some options. You know where you came from. Take a moment and reflect.
Life doesn't ask permission, it just changes everything.
One, isn't it? Colin, you knew that song, huh? Yeah, I sent it to you. You did? You did? A couple people sent me that song. I've been holding on to it, waiting for the perfect night to play it. It's a good one, very good one. All right, y'all, if you're new with us, you should know that every Saturday night, from the very beginning of Free's history, well, we've had a guest storyteller to join us up in the living room, and I can't wait for you to meet Pam Lanhart, all the way from Minnesota. We don't have a resentment towards Minnesota right now, but we don't like the Timberwolves. Nuggets, you got to pull through tonight, man. All right, Pam is, she's got a story with all this stuff. She's the loved one of a son who started battling addiction at a very early age. She's now the founder and executive director of Thrive, Family Recovery Resources. Did I say it right? Family Recovery Resources. She is also the co-producer and co-director of the film that will be premiering here tomorrow. So I hope y'all come and help me welcome my friend Pam into the living room. Pam, thank you for joining us all the way from Minnesota.
It is an honor to be here, but also such an encouragement tonight.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing what you shared.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. I'm glad you're here. I want people to hear some of your personal story, then some of why are you doing this work that you do today, which is all part of your story. And then I want you to tell us a little bit about the film and what we should expect tomorrow, or maybe the highlights of what it was like to produce this. But let's start with, so your son Jake battled this disease of addiction starting at an early age.
Yeah. My story actually starts earlier than that because I am the child of two parents who struggle with addiction. And so I loved your message tonight because we checked all the boxes, right?
Yeah.
We tried to do everything possible to prevent our children from adopting that legacy, so to speak. And Jake started using when he was about 11. So his journey was a decade of battling with a very young person, and that's a whole different kind of situation in most cases because there's a lot of things that you can't do. You know, you have to learn, and one of the things that we talk a lot about in the documentary is loving well, which is a coined term that I started with this balance of he was in our home, we wanted to stay influential with him, but we also needed to set boundaries and allow for those natural consequences. So it was a journey, and I consider myself a person in recovery from all of that, right? From the impact of my parents and that journey. I have 3 siblings that are in recovery. I have, many family members.
Yeah.
So
you started setting boundaries and doing everything you knew to do, doing your best, loving well. What was the hardest part about that?
everything.
Everything.
Everything. You know, I think initially, for most of us, if we have a family member that's struggling, we do what we think is the right thing to do. And a lot of times we contribute to the conflict, the chaos in our home. And the hardest thing was moving from a place of trying to control, manipulate, demand, all the things that you have probably all done, to a place of acceptance and not judgment. And we got to this place where we just really started to meet Jake where he was at, which repaired our relationship. And so moving from that place of reactive, you know, just I want to respond in a way that is more reactive versus I'm going to be intentional.
Yeah. So then things,
he passed in 2021. And I would love for people to hear, one, how did you get through? And were there moments where you felt like a failure, or recovery doesn't work, or man, we did this thing right, we were staying connected, we were working our recovery even as loved ones, and it didn't work? Did you ever have moments that you felt that?
Of course. And Jake was living in Lakewood, Colorado when he passed away. So the 23rd, just the other day, was 4.5 years since he passed. And the message tonight was so perfect because we were doing well. We were a family in recovery until we weren't. And so how do you get through that? And for us, for me personally, it was my personal recovery. When you're in recovery, you have to adopt certain practices. And for me, those practices were, establishing a routine, drinking water, eating healthy, moving my body, relying on my community. I think that's a really big one. When we do feel like a failure, or we do make a mistake, or we fall, the first thing we do is isolate. The first thing we do is step back from community. And in recovery, you lean into that community. And we had a sense of purpose. We had many things that we had done in our life. Again, as a family member, oftentimes you can, everything about your life is trying to help your loved one get well.
Yeah.
And we had moved away from that. I mean, we loved Jake. We had reconciled the fact that he maybe wouldn't make it out. And we have passions and a mission and a sense of purpose before, during, and after. And those things were things that really helped us.
So when did you start Thrive?
That was in 2016.
2016. And what do you see in your experience? Because I know, how many families have you worked with?
Thousands.
Thousands of families.
Thousands, yeah.
So people just like you who are watching their loved one battle and probably not knowing what to do, looking for, just help me make it through today.
Right.
Give me something that's going to make this okay. What do you think, what's the number one thing they struggle with? Or what's a couple of things that always come to the top for them?
Well, I think the narratives of it's my fault.
Yeah.
Right? And you asked that question earlier, which was, did you ever, think about that this maybe was a failure on your part? And as a parent especially, we think that we did something wrong, that it was our fault. And I will tell you something that when Jake died, one of the things I wrote in my journal was, had I broke him so badly that he was unfixable. And I think all parents go through that. They think about how influential we are in our children's life, and how we, wake up with a baby in our hands and we imagine a future for them, and the grief of having to deal with all the things that come with loving someone with substance use is really, really difficult. And we can't manage that without rethinking everything that we think about our lives. Yeah. We have to change the narratives.
Yeah, and that can be very difficult work. So tell us a little bit about why this film? What inspired you to make a film?
Yeah. Well, Kathy Wren and Shelley Young are here tonight, and we had met years ago in the circles of family members that have children that were struggling. We all, ironically, have boys. And we really wanted to create a documentary that showed the gifts of recovery as a family. So we know that a loved one has to activate their recovery, and family members can do the same thing. And we wanted to show families that actually did it together. Sometimes we hear these messages of, that's their recovery and stay in your lane, but these families work together, learn to move through this in a way that was kind and compassionate and loving, and then the joy of that and the gifts that they had got back. We see a lot of stories that start with death, right? And we wanted to show stories that celebrated life. Yeah. And this is such an uplifting documentary, and I think if you come tomorrow, please come. You'll be really encouraged by these stories.
Yeah, and some of the folks in the film will be here, and you're going to do like a question and answer thing afterwards.
Yeah, so there's a few of us that are here from out of state, and then one of the families that's featured in the documentary are two sisters from right here in Littleton. Yeah. And so they're going to be here tomorrow and sharing their story.
So what was it like? Was this a new thing for you to just kind of step in and say, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to be a filmmaker. How'd you just step into that?
I personally am a shoot first, aim later kind of girl.
It's a good way to live.
So I'm like, it's same with starting the organization. It was like, I'm just going to go for it. And for me personally, with my faith, I know God has just opened doors, led me into that path. And I can't take credit. Kathy Wren was the one who came to us and said, I really want to do this film. And I think Shelley had been on her mind for a really long time. And it was just an amazing learning process, and the opportunity to work with such a talented team. Yeah. So yeah, it was fun and exciting.
So I know we'll learn more tomorrow through watching the film than having the Q&A time with you. But what's one thing you would say to, we have lots of family members here, lots of loved ones who put themselves in the category of the loved one. Maybe you're not the addict or the alcoholic, but you have someone in your life that you love, and maybe watching online tonight too. What is the one piece of hope you give? And let me even make it a bit more specific. Thursday we did a funeral here, a family who lost their 27-year-old boy due to this brutal disease of addiction. And I try to always remind family members that your love for them was good enough. It was good, like you did the best you could, and your love truly was good enough. Of course you made mistakes, but it was good enough. It's a journey I had to go on with my brother and his death. To the ones that maybe are holding on to shame and guilt over some of the things they did or didn't do, or they're still in the midst of this battle, what would you leave them with?
I've been thinking about this, and one of the things I do want to say as someone who has worked through that grief and gone through that is we don't have the power of life and death, but we have the ability to live our lives, even in the middle of death, right? So, and for me, that's a God thing. That's the God that I believe in loved my son radically. He loves me radically. And my legacy is to show up and to honor God with everything that I do, and that's the way I can honor my son.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah. And you're going to stick around tonight and kind of hang out because you got to be with us next service. And at the end of that service, I think the tech team's going to try to put the game on the big screen so we can watch the end of the Nuggets beating the Timberwolves.
Go Wolves!
Pam Lanhart, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for being with us, Pam. Thank you so much. Yeah, I can take that from you. Fun, isn't it?
Thanks for staying with us, LSSI, and anyone online. So we're at the point of the night where we talk about generosity. It takes every little bit of generosity to make things work for free and especially keep this movement going. So thank you for being generous. You can use this QR code to donate. And then now we're going to do heartaches. Do you want to talk about heartaches?
Sure. So every week we close out with heartaches. So if you have anything you don't want to carry with you and want to share it, now's a good time. And we'll start the timer. So if you have any heartaches, raise your hand, please.
Yeah, hi, I'm Blair. We just found out my boyfriend's mom, who just recently we celebrated her 44th birthday, but we just found out that she has breast cancer. And I've been seeing her like every other day in the hospital because I'm a survivor of breast cancer. So if you can just keep her in your prayers. I'm older than her, and she's such a lovely woman. And so, yeah, that's just been weighing on me. I was talking to Shelly, and it's just like, it breaks my heart. But anyways. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing.
Thank you, Blair.
Keep her in our thoughts and prayers.
Hi, I'm Eric. I have an old friend. We've been friends since we were 13, and she always said she was going to marry me. Even after I came out, she still wants to marry me. But recently, she's been messaging me on Instagram and texting me, and they've been wild messages. She's telling me she's being trafficked, and it was just very scary. I didn't know what to do. I was telling her we need to call the police. She says the police don't do anything. She was telling me a bunch of crazy stuff, and I was so scared. I told two female friends of mine about it. They both said it sounds like she may be on drugs. Eric, I don't know, but the only thing is I was at work the last time because it was about 3 days in a row, and I couldn't text her back as fast as I wanted to. And I'm not gonna lie, sometimes I really didn't want to text her back because I really couldn't keep up with everything she was saying. But now it's been 5 days and I can't reach her. I've been typing in her name to find an obituary just to be on the safe side, because she told me if you never hear from me again, I love you. But I can't find her, so I'm hoping I can soon, but hopefully prayers can work.
And we have a couple coming in from LSSI. Pierre asked that we pray he can stay off drugs because that almost took him out. Prayers are with you, Pierre. And Cornelius asked for prayer for beating this addiction. Prayers for you, Cornelius. All right, that's all we have for heartaches right now. So now we're at the end of the night, and we're going to close out with a prayer. Matt, would you like to take us out with the prayer?
Sure, if we could all read it together, please. All right. Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. Where there is hatred, let me sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there is despair, hope. Where there is darkness, light. Where there is sadness, joy. O divine Master, grant me that I may not so much seek to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love. For it is in giving that we receive, it is in pardoning that we are pardoned, and it is in dying that we are born to eternal life. Amen.
All right, thanks everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Great job.